Been a minute. Long time no talk. It's been, I think, 11 months since the last time I actually posted a video for you guys. So I've been really slacking on YouTube, but I want to get back into it. Today's topic is our FD RX7, and we're going to go over how much it actually costs to build an FD the way that we built ours. I'm gonna break it down into a couple different categories. We have exterior, so like the aesthetics on the outside, wheels and suspension, interior of the car, and then of course the engine and performance side of things, which there is no shortage of for this build. Before I jump into it, I should actually give you guys an update on what's been new. We're in a completely different shop space. We've got a pachinko machine, which is pretty dope. Painted the walls, we got all of our inventory set up in here. And it's been a really awesome experience so far. Other than that, we've just been working on the brand new products. We started another brand called Ruiner, which is more specific to drift and motorsport stuff, since we've been getting more into that lately. Okay, so here's how this is gonna work. I'm just gonna go through the list. I'll put like a little money counter right here, and it will add up as we go through the parts. Maybe this will help somebody building their RX-7. Maybe it will bring a lot of us back down to earth. It certainly humbled me with the amount that we put into this car. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so for the car itself, I originally paid in late 2021, $13,000, which for a lot of people is gonna seem ridiculously cheap for an RX-7. And it was a sweet deal. To keep a long story short, I have an importer friend that's a good friend of ours, and I was getting tacos at a taco stand on a lunch break. And somebody said, hey, what's up? Right behind me, turn around, importer friend, struck up a conversation about how I was just looking for an RX-7. I wasn't planning to buy one or anything, but I just was like, hey, yeah, I've been in the market for an RX-7. And he's like, I have an RX-7 right now. And apparently it was one that he had imported for his cousin a couple years ago, and his cousin traded it back in to him. And so all he said was basically, is like, as long as you give me what I paid for it back then, which was a lot cheaper than it is now, it's yours. And I was like, how much is that? And he said 13K. And I said, I will cut you a check after I eat these tacos, because we were at a taco stand. And I did. So 13K for the car itself, which was still a tremendous deal. I haven't found another deal on anything like that since. First thing on the list I have is our taillights, which are custom built by a company called Stop Motion Lighting. They are a full LED array, full RGB. They do all the crazy modes. They're super cool. Those cost $2,000 approximately to have built. Next, also from Stop Motion Lighting, the front running lights are sequential LED, also custom built. Those were $650. Next, and one of the most obvious things about the car is the Live to Offend wide body kit. So much stuff, great kit, great company. Definitely love that. One of the flashiest and coolest parts about the car for sure. Next up is the paint. It didn't look like this originally. The car was, I think, an original black car, but the paint was completely sun fade. We had a good friend of ours at Squeak Garage do the full molding of the wide body kit, as well as paint and the engine bay. That cost us $7,000. On the backside of the car, very clearly, is the Voltex wing. That is a Type 7.5 swan neck, which I think really pulls the car together in a sweet way. I bought it from a guy that had an R35 GTR, and we just set it on the back, and we're like, that'll fit, and zipped it down, called it a day. Looks good, works great. That wing was $4,500. Next up, side mirrors on the car are Ganador side mirrors. If you are familiar with the Ganador brand, they're absolute hype beast mirrors. Absurdly expensive, terrible viewing angles, especially if you're left-hand drive. Luckily for us, we're right-hand drive, so they are usable. But they're very cool, very unique mirrors. I paid $1,000 plus my stock mirrors for the Ganadors, which by today's standards is a pretty sweet deal, because those sets are going on average for $2 to $3K. Moving on to the back of the car, the clear reverse lights are apparently super rare. I think they were technically $200. I got them for free in a parts trade. That about wraps up the exterior of the car. Moving on to wheels and suspension. Let's knock out the wheels first. They are 326 power Yaba King spoke, which are a two-piece wheel. We got them finished full brushed aluminum. It's brushed, so it's a matte finish rather than like a polished or a chrome finish. Those cost approximately $3,800. This is a good segue to point out that we do have some sponsors for the builds. So the prices that I'm giving for everything are going to be what it would cost just to do it again or to do it yourself. But I did want to make it somewhat fair, so we're going by prices that it costs to do it. So I had R888Rs on the car, or rather I bought R888Rs, and the spec that we got, we weren't able to stretch onto the wheels because they're a 12.5 2.5 wide, both in the front and the rear. Our wheel guy couldn't get the tires to stretch. Anyways, though, those 4 wheels cost around 1,400 bucks. I had to go double check what wheels we actually had on the car right now because I completely forgot. Nitto NT555 G2s, which I absolutely love. I also run the Nittos on the Supra. Nitto, if you ever see this and you want to sponsor us, I love your tires. Also around 1,400 bucks. Lug nuts are not something that you would usually factor into a build. However, we are running 326 Oritachi lug nuts, which cost approximately $280 a set. While we're on the topic of 326 power, we are running a big brake kit from 326 on the front. It is a 6-pot setup. I love these brakes. They went out of their way to allow us to customize them and have some of our company branding on the brakes, which I thought was super cool. Those cost approximately 3,500 bucks. For the rest of the suspension, we're doing PBM or Part Shop Max. So the coilovers are the Part Shop Max Pro suspension, and those coilovers were $1,350. We are also running P2M front upper arms. Those cost $435. We have the full Part Shop Max rear suspension kit that included the rear lower control arms, rear upper arms, trailing arms, tow rods, and then we also have front lower control arms as well. The rear suspension kit was $1,700 and the front lower arms were $800. I think that about wraps it up for the wheels and suspension side of things. Currently for seats, we're running Bridge Stratia Venus, which have a beautiful color shift back. Those are like my grail seats. I looked for them forever and I finally got a hold of a set, but not before I bought a set of Bridge Zeta 4s. So I have a pair of Brids sitting here in the shop, not being used. If you want to buy them, hit me up. But for the Brid Venus seats, I paid $3,000, and for the Zeta 4s, I paid $3,400. On the topic of seat rails, I had 2 different sets because the first set was meant for the Zeta 4s and they did not work on the Stratia seats. First set were the Brid rails, those were $400, and the second set were a Nagisa Auto ultra low rail set, and that was $500 approximately. Moving into the hatch of the FD, we have a Miracle crossbar strut, like cross tower thing. It looks beautiful. I guess it's not really necessary. I just thought it was sweet. So I wanted to get one. It was 1,200 bucks. For the steering wheel setup, we are using a Worksbell WrapFix short hub. That was $185 paired with a Worksbell quick release system. That one is the Yoshioka Special. That was $430. That is bolted up currently to a 326 power wheel, which is like $325. With a ruiner, horn button delete, those are $49, I think. We've completely removed the gauge cluster from the car. It's been replaced with a Link Strata Street Dash. This is the 7-inch edition, and it is bolted into a Motorsports 3D mount for that specific dash. So it looks nice and super flush. Definitely a big win and makes the car look like a freaking race car, which is dope. Link Strata Dash is $1,600 and the Motorsport 3D cluster mount for that is $335. As far as gauges in the car go, we are running Defi advanced gauges for everything. There are 3 gauges as well as the control unit. I bought the control unit and 2 of the gauges from a good friend of mine named Nick, who also has a dope FD. I'll put it on screen real quick. I think I paid a couple $100. We're just gonna say 200 bucks is what I paid him, which is a sweet deal because he's a sweet guy. The 3rd gauge, which I believe was the fuel pressure gauge, is 400 bucks new. The FD, like I had said, the FD is in really, really bad shape when we got it. Lots of plastics, broken, brittle, cracked, you name it. We've replaced so much of the interior. So the dash has been replaced, the door cards have been replaced, A-pillar has been replaced, pocket, like map pocket thing in the door panel was replaced. The FD comes with either like a cigarette ashtray or like a pad cover. Mine came with neither because that thing just pops out. I kind of rounded everything together for approximately 900 bucks in replaced interior parts, not including the dash, which was a trade for a lot of the stock parts like the OE suspension that we had removed. I also completely forgot if I included it or not in the video, but we did a full rear bin conversion from the original seats. That was 1,200 bucks. We got a forged carbon privacy cover. It's not even gonna show up on film because I don't have it here right now. It's cool. I don't know if we're gonna use it. It was like 400 bucks. We replaced a lot of audio in the car. Very, very happy with the setup. We did 4 kicker speakers as well as like a kicker down firing sub setup in the back with the amp. Got a good deal from a good friend of ours. I think that was around $800 all in. Also with the big Voltex wing, the hatch would not hold itself up. We bought 2 of the replacement JP3 brand struts to hold the wing up. It took 2 of them, which cost approximately $270, but it will hold that wing up, which is very nice. Engine and performance, probably one of the most exciting parts for a lot of you guys. Definitely one of the most exciting for me. Probably the most expensive part as well, besides like kit and paint, was a lot of the performance stuff that went into this car. To be fair, when I bought the car, it was running okay. It didn't sound very good, but it was running, but I bought it when it had roughly 85,000 miles, which for a lot of these cars, especially when they weren't well taken care of, is overdue for a rebuild. Since we were planning on making a ton of power anyways, we decided it was best to pull the engine right away and do a rebuild while we were doing everything else to kind of preemptively prepare for what was inevitably gonna happen. I'm gonna give a rough price on what this engine rebuild costs because it's gonna vary so much depending on who's doing your rebuild. Are you doing it yourself? Are you buying stuff as a part of a kit? Are the irons for your RX-7 still in good shape and can be reused, so on and so forth. But I do want to give a shout out to John at Legend Motorsports. He is the one that did the engine rebuild for our RX-7. We are still in our break-in tune, but it is running fantastic. It sounds amazing, and it's handling what we've thrown at it so far. In our case, we did a full Bridgeport. That rebuild, including one-piece dials from Pineapple, Atkins O-rings, Power Seal, Apex Seals, roughly $6,000. Again, that is going to depend heavily on the condition of your engine. We are running a Greddy V-mount setup, which is awesome. That setup without filters costs approximately $3,000. We're running a BorgWarner EFR 8374 turbo with an SXE style housing. So for those of you that don't know, the EFR series turbos have an integrated blow-off valve and all the electronics on the front. I personally don't think it looks very good, and I also don't like running blow-off valves because we like the good noises. And if you're not familiar, blow-off valves tend to either recirculate air or blow off to atmosphere and give you more of a sound. So an SXE housing replaces that front housing and deletes all that stuff, which I guess kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. The EFR 8374 with the SXE housing is approximately $2,200. We got our turbo kit set up from Turblone, and I just have it all lumped together at a cost of $7,000. That includes a whole bunch of stuff that I don't have broken down individually, like the wastegates, the screamer pipes or dump pipes, the Inconel like turbo shield housing, the original fuel system that we didn't end up using, the downpipe, stuff like that. So turbo kit, approximately $7,000. The unfortunate part is we didn't end up using a lot of that stuff for like the fueling, for example. We ended up going with radium. And on the topic of radium, we did the triple pump surge tank setup. So the tank that goes down in there, it's got 2 pumps. They are the Walboro 525s, I believe. Yeah, Walboro 525s, 2 of them, and then a lift pump. That setup is approximately $1,000. We're also running radium for the fuel lines, fuel pressure regulator, catch can. I think we're running 2,000 and 1,000 injectors. The whole setup is about $3,000. For the engine harness, we're running Rywire, which was $824. We also purchased a sub harness from Rywire for the coil packs. That was originally $425. We are running the Platinum Racing R35 GTR coil pack conversion. That costs $800. So we opted to do that instead of the IGN 1A coils. We're running a full function engineering trigger haul, which was $250. The ACT XT clutch kit was $660, and the whole system is powered by a Link G4X ECU. The Link with wideband and field pressure sensor was around $1,350. We're running the full function idler pulley kit, which was $175, and the Petite Racing air separator tank, which was $220. We are also running a separate container to the OMP directly for 2-stroke. That was like $30. We're running a DC power alternator, approximately $600. A Tomei titanium mid pipe, that was $531. An HKS high power catback, that was approximately $400. A battery relocation kit with breakers, which was about $350, which sounds absurd for a battery relocation, but it's nice. 0 gauge wire. I had all of our connections just ready to go. And then I have a little section for various labor, which does add up, but I did want to factor in amount that we paid shops or friends to help work on the car during the time that we've had it. I'm gonna say approximately $1,200 on the cost of the tune. That's with lifetime support from our good friend at Right Brain Designs, Ryan. I put 20K, which sounds absurd, but the labor involved, not from what we've done, is a fair 20K. So this is what we're sitting at. I don't actually have that number off the top of my head. I did not add up all the stuff beforehand. I'm assuming we're gonna be over 100K, but whatever this is, I think, a very fair and realistic expectation of what it would cost to build an FD to the spec that we have. I'm very happy with this car. I think it's a lot of fun. You kind of got to be prepared to spend that amount of money on a car like this if you really want it heavily modified. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I hope it was not as traumatic for you as it was for me actually going in and adding all of this stuff up. This is the first video I've done in like 11 months, which is unacceptable, but maybe subscribe and we will try and get some more videos done. If you're seeing this and you're building an FD and you have any questions, you're always welcome. Leave us a comment, shoot us a DM on Instagram at OUTXLOVE. Always happy to help people with their builds. It is always funny when people have a question that was the same question that I had when I was at that point in my build. So happy to help. Thank you guys for the support. I will catch you guys in the next one, hopefully.